I'm Chris Geary. I'm the co-founder of BSD Education. I'm also the chief executive of the Young Founders School. There was an acceptance that technology could be both a subject, and it could be something that had a dedicated focus, but also the idea of technology projects or technology lessons being integrated to other subjects was gaining acceptance for the first time. That said, in private education, we have seen people who are taking on dedicated roles for innovation and for technology, and that's helping schools to catch up. And so, we get a lot of proactive outreach from organizations nowadays saying, how do I implement AI? How can I use this? There is that appetite for schools, whereas it used to be the case, whereas, that's not really something we do, and we're not sure if that's ever really going to be a thing because we just want more time for maths. What we do in BSD has never been more important. If kids are not AI ready, they are not going to be employed. But let's not be negative about it, because if kids are AI ready, then they potentially have a bigger opportunity than they've ever had in the past. They don't need a degree. They don't even need to pay server costs to launch a business. Kids who are AI ready, they can set up their future in a day. And that's never been possible before. The extent to which children can experiment and iterate has never been set. So it's not all negative, but it's absolutely critical that students coming out of school are AI ready. You can't ban AI. You can't stop children from having AI. If you take away AI from children, you're undermining their future opportunities. It's simply not something that can be done. We need to be using AI in a way that makes us more productive and more creative, and that gives us more time to think. And if we're using AI in a way that just copies and pastes and and just kind of replaces the thinking that we do, we're not stimulating our creativity. We're not thinking, because AI is doing the thinking for us. And so in that case, we're getting out of practice. And so we're going to get less good at our innate human abilities than getting better at them. And so I think just the practice of how students use AI, how they apply it, and using it as a tool to give room for more thought and to give a greater ability for creativity is critical. And that's a piece that a lot of teachers, a lot of schools are spending a lot of time thinking on themselves, but also it's going to need practice, because it's not something that has been done anywhere in the past. But that's definitely an area where we're looking at. I think the biggest thing with AI is, and I touched on this just a second ago, but it's as important, is that there are a lot of negative effects being reported by AI. It's very easy for media headlines just to report negatives, but they've got to be viewed as this has to be viewed or reframed and viewed within the terms of opportunity. I don't think they can react or respond quickly enough. I think it's useful to get properly researched information and data back, but that's a commentary. I don't see any university producing tools or producing results that is going to fit within the speed of innovation that's happening nowadays. I don't think the universities can keep up, and that's a question that they've got to answer for themselves, because I don't believe universities are necessarily going to attract the same funding that they've necessarily done in the past because of that. We work with tens of thousands of underprivileged kids as well as privileged kids. So we are not a company that is just geared only to help children who spend 50 grand a year on school fees. We are here to be accessible and affordable for all students, and in many cases we go out for free. We're in that space of creativity where we understand how children create and what they create, and we provide tools for that. It's a straight line of data across to being able to connect with students about where they're going to go next and where they're going to take that, what they plan to do with that. And so that for us is, we've always been there in the tech space. We're in there in the creativity space. I've mentioned already about AI and creativity and that being the next horizon. But really for us, it's not good enough for us only to be there now. We need to be there to support that next phase of the journey, which is just getting harder and harder and harder, but more and more and more important. we needed to create an experience that let students start to demonstrate how their independent creativity manifests in the real world. That's for them learning about, do I want to pursue a particular career path? Do I want to work in a particular type of company? Do I need to take a degree pathway to secure my future in this career area or not? You don't get to do that. And the problem is that the majority of these internship experiences have always been reserved only for people who go to university during their university journey. Mm-hmm. And then it's only meaningful if you get a degree. So we need to bring that forward. And it needs to be in 15 to 18. And during that as well, just the only last part I was going to say is that young people not only need that experience, they also need someone in the real world, a professional with a professional track record, to be willing to stand up and say, this young person has worked with me and they did a great job, to give that qualifying of that experience. Students were able to do work that was useful and meaningful for the companies as well as for themselves. And that work had to be something that would fit the capability of a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, and maybe from a high-performing school or students that are maybe going to struggle a bit more. And so it needs to calibrate. And again, we've created AI tools that allow all of that to be put together seamlessly at scale. And so that's something where, again, in the behind the scenes, we don't only look at AI in front of the scenes, in the hands of the students. We look at it at how AI actually empowers the student experience and how we can work with more partners. And this has been a classic example of that. And then the other question is, so very few companies are willing to dedicate the time or able to dedicate the time and the energy to have someone for 40 hours of a week. And if you look at corporate volunteering, company volunteering, it's 8 hours a year is the mandate, normally it's a day a year. And so setting up the internship program virtually from the beginning, it took away many of the concerns and considerations for safeguarding, not all of them. And again, we've been creating solutions for safeguarding at scale, but also it's something that it's something that then becomes doable for a business executive. So you've got now a useful project, the time commitment can fit, they don't have to leave the office, it can be done remotely with a student signing in. At the end of all of this, we can get feedback to the students. Students can show that they've created a project because it's a useful project as well. Students can talk about and explain how it benefited companies. With the academy, we've always said, either you can pick up our tool in 90 minutes, you can either bring the skills to your student, or if you haven't got a teacher who's willing to do that or has the time to do that, we'll provide you a teacher as well. And we do that in a lot of countries around the world. With the internships and employability, etc., what's next for us is that complete future readiness continuum, regardless of where you're at. In terms of your academic results, how much money your mum and dad have got, where you are in the world, you can plug into our ecosystem. So whether that means that your school can develop the capacity to give you the skills you need, whether it means that you could get an internship with a famous company that would never even look at you twice because of your background, etc. And so I think in an age of AI, we are probably a unique opportunity for any learner to take ownership and architect the future that they want to have for themselves, regardless of whatever their circumstances, whatever background they come from. I want our solution to be something that can help students go all the way through that progression from 6 years old to 18 years old and beyond, but they all the way through. They can be independent, they've got ownership of where they want to go in the future, and we can put those experiences in place that just helps drive those decisions for them forward and gets them in front of the people that can also catalyze their futures for them. So, I see us as the most complete future readiness platform.